an engine with 4 miles on it. Not 4,000, 4. The seat covers were still on the seats when the connecting rod came apart inside it. That truck never made it out of the parking lot, and the man who bought it is still making payments on it. That is not a rare story. According to General Motors' own recall filing, 597,630 trucks and SUVs in the United States were called back over one engine, roughly 721,000 worldwide. Toyota recalled more than 270,000 of its own for a different failure, then expanded that recall again in May of 2026. Together, that is close to 1 million vehicles. But that is not the number that should worry you. Federal investigators at NHTSA have logged 1,157 reports of engine bearing failure, and in October of 2025, they opened an engineering analysis, not into the engines that were recalled, but into the ones that weren't. That file is still open as of today. By the end of this video, you will know which engines are on the list, which engines are in the investigation, what the dealers are telling owners when they call, and what to do about it if you own one. Let's start with how a truck engine got here in the first place. 15 years ago, the F-150 came with a V8. The Silverado came with a V8. The Tundra came with a 5.7-liter V8 that would cross 300,000 miles on oil changes and not much else. These were engines that had already survived a decade of real-world abuse before you ever sat in the driver's seat. Nobody bought an extended warranty because they were frightened of the engine. What changed is not a secret, and it is not a conspiracy. Fuel economy standards tightened. Manufacturers needed the same horsepower out of less displacement, and the industry answer was nearly identical across every brand. Shrink the block, add a turbocharger, thin the oil, and add start-stop. Each of those on its own is a reasonable engineering decision. Stack all four on top of each other, and the margin an engine used to have, the slack that let it survive a hot day, a heavy trailer, and a late oil change, is where the margin went. That is the backdrop. What follows is the specific hardware brand by brand, and every number here comes from the manufacturer's own filings. The 6.2-liter V8 GM calls the L87 is the upgrade engine. It is the one in the Silverado, the Sierra, the Tahoe, the Yukon, the Suburban, and the Escalade, and it is the one you tick the box for. In April of 2025, GM filed Recall N25-249-4001. The filing points at the crankshafts, machined outside dimensional tolerance with the wrong surface finish on the bearing journals, plus debris in the rod bearings. In plain English, the parts that hold the bottom of the engine together were not made to the size they were supposed to be. When a bearing journal is out of spec, the oil film that keeps metal from touching metal gets thinner than it was designed to be. It works, right up until it does not. Then the bearing material goes through the engine and there is no warning light for that. There is a noise, and by the time you hear the noise, it is already over. Which brings us to the part that almost nobody covers. A recall is a list. It is a range of build dates and a set of VINs, and it has an edge. If your truck is on the list, GM replaces the engine. If your truck was built 1 week outside that range, same engine, same design, same supplier, same failure, you are not a recall. You are a customer with an estimate. That is precisely why federal investigators went back in. NHTSA's Office of Defects Investigation logged 1,157 bearing failure reports, and in October of 2025, upgraded the case to an engineering analysis specifically to examine L87 engines that the recall never touched. An engineering analysis is the stage before a manufacturer gets pushed into a wider recall. It is not a verdict. Nothing has been concluded, but it means the government looked at the boundary GM drew and decided the boundary was worth a second look and until that file closes, nobody can tell you your build date is safe. The 5.3-liter is the volume engine, the one in far more trucks than the 6.2, and it has a separate older problem in the cylinder deactivation hardware. Watch any shop work 1 and you will notice something. They are not hunting, they know which lifter, on which bank, before they pull the cover. When a repair becomes that predictable, it has stopped being a defect and started being a service interval nobody told you about. Then there is the 3.0-liter Duramax, the small diesel, the sensible choice, the one you buy specifically to avoid all of this. It has been failing at the thrust bearing, and GM has a dealer bulletin on it numbered 25NA307. Understand what a bulletin is and is not. A recall obligates the manufacturer. A bulletin tells the dealer how to handle it if you show up. One is a promise, the other is an instruction, and you are not the one holding it. Toyota is in this too, and for a lot of owners, this is the one that stings. People paid a premium for a Tundra because of the V8 and the reputation attached to it. In 2022, that V8 was retired and replaced with the 3.4-liter twin-turbo Toyota calls the V35A. Toyota's recall, Campaign 25V 767, covers more than 270,000 trucks and SUVs. And the cause named in the filing is machining debris, metal left behind during manufacturing, that can reach the main bearings and destroy them from the inside. It does not only affect the Tundra. The same engine sits in the Sequoia, the Lexus LX, and the Lexus GX. And on May 20th of 2026, Toyota filed Campaign 26V320 and added roughly 44,000 more 2024 Tundras to it. Read that date again. That is not a company closing a file. 2 years after the first campaign, it is a company still finding the edges of one. Everything so far is paperwork. Here is what it turns into at the service counter. A Ford technician on a Ford put a teardown on camera after the manufacturer ran a cost cap analysis on a truck still inside its 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. He is looking at metal shavings in an engine he was told was operating normally. That word is the one to watch. Once a failure is classified as normal, it stops being a defect. It becomes a characteristic of the vehicle you bought, and there is nothing left to claim. Another owner had a warranty claim denied under the heading of excessive use. Another bought a vehicle and had a head gasket fail within a week, and the dealer would not make it right. Another took delivery of a new Sierra, had trouble inside 10 days, and described the dealer as shifting the problem onto him, the consumer in his words, leaving him to drive a truck he had just financed while waiting to find out if the engine would hold. None of these people did anything to their engines. That is the thread running through all of it. The repair bill is the number everyone quotes, and it is the smaller number. An engine replacement on a modern truck runs into 5 figures, but the replacement blocks are back-ordered, and owners have reported months of waiting. During those months, the payment does not stop, the insurance does not stop, the registration does not stop. The loaner, if you got one, runs out. And when the truck finally comes back, the repair is in its history forever. You are no longer selling a truck with a new engine. You are selling a truck that needed one, and every buyer who runs the report sees exactly what you saw. You did not cause it, you did not choose it, and you carry it. This is the part worth writing down. 1. Run your VIN, go to the NHTA recall lookup and enter it yourself. Do not take the dealer's word, and do not assume a clean result last year is still clean. Campaigns get expanded, and the Toyota one was expanded twice. 2. Keep every service record. Receipts, dates, mileage, oil specification. If you change your own oil, photograph the jug and the odometer on the same frame. claims get denied over documentation more often than over the failure itself. 3. Use the exact oil in the manual, not close, the specification in writing every time. On these engines, the oil grade is part of the design margin, and it is the first thing anyone asks about. 4. Get everything in writing. If a dealer tells you a noise is normal, ask for that on the repair order, signed and dated. A verbal, "they all do that," is worth nothing later. A written, "one" is a document. 5. File the complaint. If your engine fails, report it to NHTSA yourself. That is not a formality. The 1,157 reports that opened the federal investigation are exactly this: individual owners filing individually. That is the only number in this entire video that owners control. Nearly 1 million vehicles recalled, 1,157 failures on file. A federal investigation still open into the engines the recall left out. And underneath every one of those numbers, the same sentence from the people who take these apart for a living: something in this engine was defective before anybody drove it. The old trucks did not do this, not because the steel was better, and not because the men who built them cared more, because there were fewer places for a machining error to hide, and because a man in his own driveway could find it before it found him. If your engine has been recalled or your claim was denied, put it in the comments. What brand, what mileage, and exactly what they told you. I read every one, and those replies decide what gets covered next. And subscribe, because the next one is about what happens to these trucks after the replacement engine goes in.